Many women quietly wonder something. Why does pleasure sometimes feel so distant from the body? Why does sensation feel inconsistent or harder to access than it used to? And over time, that question can slowly turn into another one. Is something wrong in my body? But what if the body is not broken at all? What if the body is simply responding the way a nervous system responds after years of stress, pressure, and cultural conditioning? Because the nervous system always adapts to the environment it lives in. And once you start looking at the body this way, something very surprising appears. The female body contains an organ designated entirely for pleasure, the clitoris. The external glands of the clitoris contain roughly 8 to 10,000 nerve endings. For comparison, the glands of the penis contains about 4,000, half of it. Biology rarely invests that much sensory wiring without a reason, which raises an interesting question. What if pleasure isn't indulgence? What if pleasure is actually essential biology? I am Fleur. On this channel, I explore how the nervous system shapes the way women experience pleasure, desire, and connection. Because many women grow up believing that pleasure is optional, something nice, something extra, something indulgent. But when we look at the body through the lens of biology and nervous system science, something very different appears. Pleasure isn't a luxury. Pleasure is part of how the body regulates itself. In other words, pleasure isn't extra, it's essential. There is something remarkable about the female body. It contains a sensory organ whose role is pleasure. The clitoris, unlike many other structures in the body, is not responsible for reproduction. It's not responsible for urination. Its function is sensation. And most of this structure actually live inside the body. What many people imagine as a small external point is actually part of a much larger internal sensory network, which raises an interesting thought. Why would biology build something this sensitive if pleasure had no purpose? When women discover this, something interesting often happens. The body suddenly begins to make a little more sense. Sometimes there is curiosity, sometimes there is relief, or maybe a quiet moment where someone realizes the body was never the problem. In biology, pleasure functions as feedback. It tells the nervous system when something supports connection, safety, regulation. Think about hunger. Hunger motivates eating. Taste rewards nourishment. You wouldn't say there is anything wrong with taste, right? Well, the body uses pleasure and discomfort to guide behavior. Sexual pleasure follows the same principle, but it also serves another function that is often overlooked. Pleasure helps regulate the nervous system, which means pleasure isn't just enjoyable, it's functional. And I notice this in my own body too. If I don't sleep well for a few nights, I become a monster. So let's say my nervous system becomes much less interested in curiosity or pleasure and much more focused in survival mode, which is exactly what the nervous system is designed to do. Pleasure moves through a natural cycle: activation, energy rising, and then relaxation. This movement teaches the nervous system something very important: flexibility. And flexibility is one of the strongest signs of a resilient nervous system, which means pleasure is not about sexuality only. This is a part of how the body learns to regulate. Pleasurable experiences also activate powerful internal chemistry: oxytocin, endorphins, dopamine, nitric oxide. These are substances the body produces naturally. They support connection, relaxation, circulation, and recovery. You could think of pleasure as one way the body activates its own internal pharmacy, not artificially, naturally. This is physiology. When we look at pleasure through this lens, something shifts. Pleasure stops looking like indulgence and starts looking like biological intelligence, a signal, a form of communication. The body is saying, we are safe, we feel connected, we can stay here. This is something I explore deeply with the women I work with. Not forcing pleasure, not performing desire, but helping the nervous system rediscover the conditions where the body can feel safe, curious, and alive again. And yes, turn on. The key idea of this conversation is quite simple. Pleasure is not extra. Pleasure is essential. And when the nervous system begins to feel safe again, the body often remembers something it knew all along. Before we finish, I'm curious about something. Growing up, was pleasure ever presented to you as something natural and healthy? Or was it framed more like something indulgent, suspicious, or even shameful? Let me know in the comments. I'm genuinely curious what messages you received about your body and your pleasure. And if conversation like this help your body make a little more sense, you are very welcome to subscribe.